open the meeting up to everybody, perhaps she'll come in another way. She's not. I don't see Karen. So, I'm bad me. Oh, here's Karen.
Okay.
So she's supposed to.
Yeah. Karen McDade?
Yes.
Even my panels listed off the screen. Just I always try to keep the panels up so I can see, but there's
Too many of them.
chaos.
Do we have all of our reps?
All I see is representative.
No, we have Representative Donovan, that's it.
Yeah, I don't.
Representative McGaw is there now.
Okay.
Michelle, there's Michelle, yeah.
How about Senator Seveny? He's supposed to come, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll speak slowly.
I can text him, see if he remembers.
And rep correspondence.
If you have a Cox email address, mine was going bananas. I couldn't get into it, so I forwarded the email from my phone to my work email.
Is
to
Jay
get the link
coming?
to work.
Oh, here he comes.
There he is.
Senator Seveny.
Representative, about Representative.
Representative Edwards coming? And
Sorry, what do you think? I think that's a no.
Could be.
I think he's unavailable.
babysitting a grandchild?
I think could be.
Oh, next year. Okay.
So we have. Terry.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
All right. Okay. 7 o'clock, Mr. Roberts, we good? Okay, welcome everyone to our January 25th Town Council meeting. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women serving in harm's way. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay. We have a large crowd. Let me just go over the game rules. For those of you participating from home, if you're on, obviously, if you're on the Zoom, you know to raise your hand. If you're calling in by phone, *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And if you indicate *9, that'll allow us to have a question. When called upon, please state your name and address for the town clerk. And if I could, the first part of our agenda is a joint meeting with the town council and the school committee to discuss our legislative priorities. So what I'd like to do is just take a roll call of council members and then school committee members, so we know who's in attendance.
Ms. Jukusa?
Here.
Ms. Abbott?
Here.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Here.
Mr. Hamilton?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Dr. Ryan?
Here.
And Mr. Aguilar?
Here. And on the school committee side, yes, please. No disrespect.
That's all right. Juan Carlos Payero?
Here.
Tom Vadney?
Here.
Fred Ferber? Fred Ferber?
Muted, maybe.
I was muted. Here.
Thank you. Alan Shears?
Here.
Karen McDade?
Here.
Isabel Kelly?
Here.
Emily Copeland? Here.
Well, thank you all. Welcome. And on our legislative side, we have Senator Seveny, Representative Donovan, Representative Corcoran, and Representative McCall. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And for those of you who have participated in the past, this year we provided all the legislators our suggestions for consideration for legislative priorities for both the town council side of things as well as for the school committee. Did everyone receive them on the representative side? All right. So
I did.
So I guess this one's a little unique doing it via Zoom. So if I guess we could begin with the town council side. That's okay.
Sure.
All right. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just quickly have the first ones were put together by councilors Ujakuza and Councilor Ryan. Would one of you like to just touch base? Either.
Sure. This is Linda Ujifuza. I'd be happy to. I think the advantage of having already discussed these in town council and presented them to the state legislators is that we can dispense with our discussing them further and maybe just turn to the state legislators to let us know their position on our recommendations and whether they are prepared to support them and whether they can talk to whether they are not supporting them. So take it away, state legislators.
Well, that was easy.
Well, that was the point of trying to give them a heads up so we wouldn't ambush them with these and they would have a chance to consider them. So
I support them.
For members of the audience, they might want to know what the topic is.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'm happy to review them quickly again.
I guess it's really more a case of those listening in from home who may not have listened in at the last council meeting or attended possibly a school committee meeting. I can touch base real quickly, and then if there's any follow-up, the councilors could provide the additional feedback. On the council recommendations, the first item was support legislation making Portsmouth more resilient. The second item was support funding Rhode Island municipal infrastructure grants. Third item was to help shift the tax burden off Portsmouth homeowners by reversing past failed trickle-down tax cuts. Fourth item was to protect our citizens' health and welfare. It was some suggestions to audit the private insurance companies running Rhode Island's Medicaid program, and also support for a single payer improved Medicare for all health insurance. We had amend the general laws to clarify tax appeal procedures. We had the next items were presented by Councilor Hamilton. There was some recreational marijuana legislation. Also revisions to the Pavia weed tax cap. And there was, the final one was to, regarding the special March election. And then there were some staff recommendations, which was the promote the state takeover for Defense Highway / Stringham Road, update the low to moderate income housing legislation. There was recommendations by the fire chief, funding assistance for the COVID-19 vaccine distribution, advocacy for additional federal funding for assistance to firefighter grant, and staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grants. Those are known as the AFG grant and the SAFER grant. Our HR director had pay equity and minimum wage to remain competitive with Massachusetts. Was also consideration to expand the plastic ban for bags to other consumer products. And we had a 2 recommendations by our business development director to improve high-speed internet improvement and accessibility, as well as advocacy for state office on electronic connectivity, e-commerce, cybersecurity. Those were what were forwarded to our legislators on behalf of the town council and departments. So that was just a recap for those of you sitting in from home. And now if the legislators, if you want to take turns, just giving
Sure.
feedback.
I have my hand up. Do you want me to just start? It's Susan Donovan.
Sure.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I don't know how many people out there I'm talking to, but to the town council, please, thank you for laying out these priorities. I can't say that I disagree with any of them. I absolutely agree that the climate change is an existential threat, as you stated. And I plan to sign on to the legislation that helps us deal with these issues. I have been in conversation where we have discussed the establishment of a permanent fund to help Rhode Island adapt to the impacts of climate change. And we talked about perhaps that can happen when we put the next green bonds out there, that it's a dedicated source of revenue that municipalities can tap into or apply to help with combating climate change and sea level rise. I also signed on to some legislation that would give tax credits when people, homeowners, wanted to mitigate some issues that they're having with their homes in relation to flooding. And as far as plastics pollution goes, I am putting in my bill in again that deals with the intentional release of balloons. I've talked to fishermen up and down the East Coast. It's a huge problem out there in the ocean as well as on the land. I'm constantly, when I go out walking in the woods like most of you do, I pick up balloons all the time that are coming down. I also am filing this week or next week the Fair Pay Bill, which deals with pay equity for women and minorities, as well as other issues there. It's modeled after the one in Massachusetts, but it goes just a little bit farther with how we deal with businesses or that don't want to comply in the first several years. So that's that's my my synopsis of what I'm doing. But if anybody has any questions, they could email me, whatever, ask. I'm here. So.
Thank you, Representative Don. I'm just trying to see.
If you could speak up, we're having trouble hearing.
Sorry about that. For those of you not able to hear, Senator Semeny.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me. Thanks for your thoughts together and vetting them ahead of time. I mean, I'll start off as Susan did. There's nothing on the list that jumps out at me as something that I can't support or is unreasonable. Certainly the resiliency stuff in favor of, all of that. And, I'm following coming through. Infrastructure grants, I think, are a great idea. The tax cuts, I do support, and I'm a co-sponsor of the of fixing some of those inequity in the higher end of the income. I do. I'll take a look. I'm not sure what all is entailed in auditing the private insurance company. The audit, but I'll go take a look at what he's done and see if there's anything that can be done. And certainly, any sort of resolutions from the council, focus somebody happy to take and run down. The tax appeal stuff, I mean, that bill is going through it. It didn't make it last session, but that'll be submitted. The tax cap stuff for the water and fire district, I've got no problem with that. I think everybody needs to live within the constraints that place tax authorities. Frankly, I wasn't aware that they, didn't come up with that. The special March election, Secretary of State has already provided some fund to the municipalities to defray costs. That's probably not going to cover the entire bill. I'll look into that, but I won't extend much hope that there's going to be that.
Senator 70?
Yeah.
That was my request. This is Keith.
Yeah.
And, respectfully, nobody on this call had anything to do with the lack of activity for the General Assembly last year. But the General Assembly caused this problem, so the General Assembly should pay for the problem.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Keith. I hear what you're saying.
And I obviously, Representative McGaugh had nothing to do with it because she wasn't elected at that point in time, and the three of you didn't have the authority to pull the strings to actually get the work done. But and unfortunately, the person that's most responsible has been replaced, or maybe fortunately. So
Yeah. I mean, I'll ask the question, but I'm not going to sugarcoat you. And I don't think it'll happen, but.
Well, the other things that could help, I know they're trying to do as much as they can via mail. But the other things that have cost us a lot more money in the past is having multiple sites where we really don't need them for a special election. That's probably going to see a 30% turnout. So we don't need to have 9 sites open, or Jackie's here, but I think we had, St. Barnabas, the middle school, Melville High School. We had 6 or 7 for this past general election. I think we could probably get away with just 1 or 2. The town hall did a great job of doing early voting for the general election. I think we could do the same for this election and probably just get away with 1 other site.
Well, like I said, I'll ask.
Thank you, sir.
I'll go next. Are you done? Senator 70, are you done? I don't want to jump in on you.
The rest of the stuff from the staff, some of this stuff is in process already. The defense highway, the moderate income housing stuff is not, but I will look at that. I need some help from you guys on what exactly you're asking for.
Okay, we can.
Funding is on the distribution. That's everybody's ask, and we'll push for that. I think you're gonna see a series of supplemental budgets. Most of the money from the original CARES relief fund has been spent, encumbered, but with the new is expected to come from feds. There'll be updates and supplements to this year. And certainly that'll be a big part of that. I do. I certainly support the equity wage, minimum wage. And we'll take a look at the plastic bag stuff. High-speed internet. We'll take a look at that. I mean, we're all. You all realize, right, that we're surviving on one-time monies between now and July 1st. And with maybe what the new grant brings, should they the political process. But next year it's going to be a very different budget process because much of the one-time monies will not be there. But the things that they were funding will still, have to be funded. So I think it's going to be a difficult budget year coming up for fiscal 22. But we'll see. Okay, I'm done. That's the whole.
Thank you, Senator.
Hello,
All
I'm
right.
here to,
I think it's Representative Corkman is next.
yeah,
Okay.
hello, how are you? I guess I'm on, I don't see myself, but I guess I'm on camera, and you can hear me?
We got
Okay.
you.
Okay, well, thank you for having us, and like my colleagues have said so far, there's nothing here that I object to. I am putting back in the bill that Senator Seveny has on the for the tax assessments. I've gotten good indications that might go this year. I'm very hopeful on that one. I'll make sure that I get Michelle to sign on. The House is a little bit behind the Senate. We just got bills like the end of last week. So we're still working out, collecting signatures and getting things introduced. Rep McGaw and I met with Grossmart last week, and she can chime in here too. And so we wanted to understand more about the Mass Works and the Rhode Island Municipal Infrastructure bill that was passed back in 2018. The way it was passed, though, actually precludes the state from putting any money into it. It can only, right now, only grant money can be used. So the bill would have to not just include money, but would actually have to change the language. So we're still doing some research on that. And Michelle, Rep McGaw can chime in if she has more to say about that. Let's see, I think there's going to be several different tax increase proposals from what I'm hearing. One of them actually earmarks any tax increases to education, which I think that one's particularly interesting. And I would support that for sure. And yes, the single payer and the I think those have been put in, the single payer, and I assume somebody is doing the audit. It's not me, but I think I heard that new rep David, Rep McGaw, are you there? What's Marsalis, right?
David, Representative Morales and I are both putting in bills, one to do just an audit and the other to do the audit. And if it's determined that it would be cost savings, there would be cost savings associated with moving it back to a Rhode Island-based program as opposed to privatization. And I'm looking into reverting it back to a Rhode Island run program. So there's bills similar, but both related to auditing the Medicaid.
Great. And I think that's about all. I heard that I just heard that today that there's money coming to the state. Senator Reed had a press release that there's money coming in for vaccines. So hopefully that will meet what Chief Ford is asking for. And
It was, I believe, Representative, I believe that was $70 million and 62 of it was for testing and only 8 or 9 was for vaccine help. So we still need help with vaccines.
Okay, good. I'll make a note of that. I'm not sure where that funding is coming from right now, but we can go back to DOH and find out more about that. Hopefully, there's going to be
guess-
more.
Yeah, I would hope so. My guess would be it'd be out of that $900 billion bill that was passed right before Christmas.
Right. Right.
Plus,
Is that,
President Biden also said he was going to invoke the Defense Production Act, so presumably federal money will be allocated to the vaccine manufacturers to increase vaccine production, but we'll wait to see details on that.
we definitely need more production, that is for sure. So I think that is all that I have until we get to the school committee, because I have some things on notes written down for their list as well.
Thank you.
And let me know if you have any questions. Anybody can always reach out to me. Feel free.
Thank you, Representative Corcoran. Representative McGaugh, you got the floor.
Terrific, thank you. So like my colleagues, I could not agree more that we need to be addressing some of the climate change issues. And so I'm, happy that I feel we're very fortunate that we have representation at our state house that's really going to support climate change legislation and address some of those issues. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that we are able to move some things forward this coming year. I think it's long past due. So I have no issue with that, certainly. Regarding the municipal infrastructure grants, as Terry mentioned, Representative Corcoran mentioned, we did meet with GrowSmart, and we are looking into that, but the issue there is, the funding, and so there may need to be some legislation there to address that. And I know she and I have also had some conversations with some other legislators about addressing that. So that's something that we're gonna dig into a little bit more to find out what's available. As far as the tax cuts, and I think this may be what Representative Corcoran was referring to, legislation. The raising of taxes is really more of a tax equity plan for people earning more than $475,000. I don't mean to speak for you, Rep. Corcoran. I'm just assuming that that's what you meant when you were talking about any earmark for education.
Yeah, Rep. Amore has a bill so there's different versions, but they're all kind of at the same level price, income earnings, but I think the Alzate bill doesn't earmark it specifically to education, but the Amore bill does. So
I just want to be clear for those that are listening in that the tax increases that we're talking about are for people earning more than $475,000 a year.
and it's only that amount above those earnings.
That's correct. That's correct. So in case anybody's concerned with hearing about tax increases at home, just sharing that.
Yes.
Regarding the auditing of private insurance companies, we already talked about that I am submitting a bill asking that be audited. We have seen other states with audits, and it has shown that there is cost savings, some significant cost savings associated with deprivatizing those funds, and the Medicaid budget accounts for a very large portion of our state budget. We need to have some oversight on that with the amount of money that we are putting into that. And so looking for an audit and a little bit more oversight on that, I think is warranted. And so I am submitting a bill related to that. Regarding single payer, also submitting a resolution to ask our federal delegation to support a single payer healthcare system. And so that is something that I'll be submitting as well, that have not yet been submitted, but as Rep. Corcoran mentioned, a little bit behind in the process, but that is something that we're going to be working on. Regarding the recreational marijuana, Keith, I take your comments. I appreciate them, and I will certainly be taking those into account as we look at legislation moving forward. I haven't seen the legislation that's going to be submitted this year. I understand there's going to be changes based upon what was submitted last year. And so I appreciate those comments and will certainly take them in under advisement when I start looking at that bill. The tax cap, I agree with everyone here that, you know, I think it should be encompassed in all of our tax programs, and was not aware that it was not part of the water and fire district. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. So that's something that we can look for. Regarding the low to moderate income housing, I'm hoping that maybe we can get a little bit more clarification from Gary, just to find out specifically what some of those impediments he's concerned about. If I can get some more detail on that, that would be really helpful. Housing, it is my understanding, is going to be a big priority in the House this year. The speaker has indicated that it's going to be a priority for him, and in conversations with the Democratic caucus, the House, there's been a lot of discussion around housing. And so if we can get some more detail around that, I think that would be really helpful as we start to address those issues. So that would be great. Say for public works and working on the infrastructure projects. Again, we're going to be working on, we're going to be looking at all of that. We're going to be talking with GrowSmart. We're going to be, we definitely want to take into account, sea level rise and climate, and make sure that we're incorporating all of that. And so I appreciate those comments as well. And I don't want to go over ad nauseum everything, because I know a lot of you have already talked about this. So, but I don't see anything here that causes me any concern. Pay equity is certainly something that I've been fighting for in the past and will continue to. And reduction of plastic use is something that I am absolutely on board with, and looking. I look forward to the hearings on that, so that we can really start to advocate for that. And then this is the last thing that I want to mention about the high-speed internet. And yes, certainly it's going to require funding. But it is something that I heard about a lot when I was talking to people over the past year, door to door, not just here on Aquidneck Island, but in Tiverton and in Little Compton. As more people were learning from home and working from home, internet access, the cost, the lack of competition, the poor service that we're getting is coming up, and it's a big issue for a lot of people in the community. And so it's something that is definitely on my radar. I have been in conversations with Rep. Ruggiero about, working on a committee to address that. Right now, we don't really have anybody working on grants specifically to address that issue. And so she has submitted a bill in the past to try to get a commission working on that. And that's something that I've been in conversation with her about helping to her to advocate for, because it is something that I heard routinely at the doors. So I think that's all that I have to add.
Can I ask Rep. McGaugh, I know you're on the special COVID task force. Is there anything that you care to share with us that might enlighten us about how this vaccine rollout is going? Because we get that question all the time. Like, when?
I understand it, and everyone is getting that question, and so all I can do is ask people to be patient. I know it's frustrating. We have a lot of people to vaccinate, and unfortunately, we are not getting nearly enough vaccine as quickly as we would like to get everyone vaccinated as quickly as we'd like. But there are a number of different initiatives that are ongoing to vaccinate people. We have heard from the Department of Health that they are administering 90 to 95% of the vaccine that they get every week. Within that week that they are getting, as soon as it comes in, it's going right back out again. I know that they are doing vaccinations in nursing homes, and have, I believe just this week, started in assisted living facilities. We're going to be doing group homes. And so that is through a federal partnership program with CVS and Walgreens, and they are going directly into those homes and vaccinating staff and patients. In regard to first responders and home health aides, that is ongoing as well. And thanks to our emergency management team, who's done a really great job working with the regional emergency management teams. on those MedPod programs. I worked at one of those clinics. I was very impressed with how organized it was, how quickly they got people in, got them vaccinated, what a great job they did monitoring patients afterwards. So kudos to them. They're really doing a great job with that. So we're rolling it out as fast as we can based upon the amount of vaccine that we're receiving. And I know everyone wants it to happen faster, and we want to move through these roles, quickly and get people vaccinated and get back to, some semblance of normal life. But, until we get more vaccine, we're just going to have to be patient. So, and it's not what people want to hear, but hopefully, as Dr. Ryan mentioned, we're going to be able to increase production of the vaccine very soon. And then we can start to roll it out a little bit faster.
All right.
Mr. President, can I come back in for a second?
You absolutely can.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just follow up on the vaccine report. I was at the Portsmouth MedPod up in Bristol today. We had an overwhelming number of volunteers. Approximately 280 second doses were administered, and we're looking forward. My understanding was the next Portsmouth vaccine day will hopefully occur in Portsmouth. And but I echo what Rep. McGall just said, that it was run super smoothly. We had I think we could have accommodated more people. These were all people getting their second dose, first responders and healthcare workers primarily. I think we could have done more people with the number of volunteers we had, and it was very well run. So kudos to Rich Talipsky and Ray Perry, because I think, and Chief Ford, because I think they were the lead guys on this, and it was very well done. And I also learned this evening that the Anthony House will be having a vaccine clinic for their residents. So since that's Portsmouth, I might want to. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I think at this point now we can turn it over
To schools?
to the school.
All right.
Ms. Cole.
Mr. President,
Oh, yes.
Fred Ferber, I just want to speak up to the issue, if I can I speak up to the issue on the water and fire district? The current tax rate for the water and fire district is 23 cents per thousand. A 1 cent increase in that amount is a 4.35% increase in the tax rate. So we went up 2 cents. So that would be not quite 9%. So, I mean, it's minuscule, and that money is used to supplement all of the repair needs. I mean, it's a small fraction of the repair needs of the district. So I think you need to be aware that when you talk about us exceeding the cap rate, I mean, it's not possible with only a 1 cent increase in the tax rate to stay under the cap. So I just wanted to put that into perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Okay.
All right, so moving on to the schools. Could you pull up the school recommendations, please?
Yes, we have one.
Oh, you have one in? Sure.
About vaccines. I don't know if anyone here has the answer to that question.
So the question is, when will seniors 75 plus be the priority group to vaccinate in Portsmouth?
My understanding is that the Department of Health is trying to get the over 75 population done in the latter part of February, but it does depend on supply.
It's going to vary based upon the supply and also how many people opt to receive the vaccine.
Sure.
Other questions?
Okay, well,
Thank you.
thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you to the representatives for being here. School committee, like the town council, has already voted on this and sent it to them in advance. So I'm just going to do a really quick summary and then hear what the reps have to say. We have five basic or five key priorities for this legislative session. The first generally revolves around funding. As you know, for the past 10 years, we've been seeing annual cuts due to the implementation of the state funding formula. This year should have been the last one. We know that the Senate last year had a study committee to review the funding formula, and we've heard through the Rhode Island Association of School Committees legislative update that they are thinking about having a House Senate joint committee this year to study the issue. We would really hope that Portsmouth representatives would be engaged in that process, and that any future changes to the formula should really only result in increases to districts as opposed to a reallocation, which could mean that Portsmouth would see future losses. So the idea being to hold harmless. The second point was with regards to special ed, and particularly high-cost special ed. If they are reviewing the funding formula, we urge an increase in the categorical funding for high-cost special ed. Our second priority is really a carryover from last year. There was legislation making its way through dealing with what we would kind of call a field trip fix. I think this might be new to Rep. McGaw, but I think our representatives heard about it last year. So we hope that you will pick up that legislation and urge it to be reintroduced and passed to clarify the funding of field trips, particularly in the aftermath of the pandemic. I think it's really important that we try and reestablish as many of these traditions and opportunities for kids as possible. The third item deals with special ed, and it is a little bit more technical. So if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to our special ed director, Dr. Caldwell. But in a nutshell, this statutory requirements for LEA's contribution to special ed per pupil for the DCYF students. Sometimes students who don't qualify for special ed are placed, and the district ends up paying special ed rates for non-special ed students. That was one of the items that was raised. But in general, we request that you really review this current statute in its entirety, including the formula for determining per pupil expenditures. And then the second one, talk about an area that's ripe for a study commission. This has to do with the statewide transportation for students who attend school outside of their home district, their residence LEA. The statewide transportation system was enacted because it was supposed to be fiscally efficient. It is not efficient, it is not cost effective, and it really needs to be reviewed and revised. Number 4, this is an issue I think that you hear a lot about in Portsmouth. Road safety. We know the town council has looked into this. We know that state reps have looked into it. We know that Terry Corcoran, when she was on the school committee, went up to testify on behalf of this. But we really need it to become a priority in Portsmouth somehow. The safety of transporting students is a priority for us. We are undertaking a transportation study within the district to see if there's things that we can do. But we really do need to get state money, state attention, because these are state roads for East and West Point Road. And then finally, there is a Senate Bill 13 that's being put forward that's urging pausing the expansion or creation of new charter schools until the 23-24 year. And we would urge you to sign on and support that pause in the expansion of creation. So those are our 5 areas, and we'd really like to hear how hopefully our representatives can help move these agendas forward during this coming legislative session.
Am I up, or is Senator 70? Does he want to?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just go.
Up to you. I can, like,
He's there. He's just
Either
there.
way, I mean, I'll let you talk about the bill that we've been working on, that you've done the work on for this road safety. But I could talk about, I think on the House side, the Joint Commission for, that you mentioned, Chairman Copeland, that's not likely to happen until this summer. So I don't think we'll see any changes to the funding formula in this upcoming budget, in the 2022 budget. So hopefully that would mean that you would be stable. But we know it's going to be a tough budget year, but it won't be due to a new funding formula. It would probably be 2023 before a new funding formula could be enacted. We can see if the senator thinks differently, but that's what I'm hearing on the House side. The field trips, I think that did pass on the House side, so I was surprised I didn't realize that it didn't make it all the way through, but COVID kind of messed up everything. So I will, I imagine it's going to be resubmitted like it was, like the sub A was at the end of when we left in March. So I will double check on that, but I'm sure somebody's going to pick it up, and if they don't, I will. It's my understanding that we got $185 million for schools, COVID money, and that is all for Title I schools, but 10% of it, the state can do what they want with. Now, we don't know if the legislature will get any say in that, or if that's something strictly up to the governor's office. But if we had something to do with it on the House side, I was speaking with Rep. Omori, who's chair of the Education Subcommittee on Finance. And he would like to see that 10% go to be divided up between the non-Title I schools. So let's see. And he realizes how important the special education and getting more money into that pot of funds is, so that we could at least get up to 2 times instead of 5 times and be more comparable to what Massachusetts is for high cost special ed. So I would certainly work with him on that and advocate for that, along with the transportation that you mentioned. And I think there is the expansion in charter schools. So I will keep an eye on that too.
Thank you.
Senator Stephanie, you want to talk about road safety?
Well, sure. As we all know, the that came back from RIDOT was not part of a road. We had all hoped that that would be a traffic calming solution for safety issues on East Main Road, at least. So when that was taken off the table, we looked at broadening the automated speed control stuff using the automatic tickets. It's basically taking the existing legislation that is used for school zone and broadening any either local or state road or highway. So that's it's introduced. Harry introduced it on her side. It's also being reviewed by RIDOT. They are generally supportive of this. And what this would allow us to do is enable any municipality, if they choose to implement speed cameras on their road, to try to supplement the police, slow people down. So we'll see how that's contentious in some areas of the state, primarily because some of the experiences they've had in the school zones. That gets ironed out, I think, we of getting that passed so that if they could implement like that to help, and that would help everywhere. And that would be a potential solution for West Main Road as well as East Main. So that's what we're doing on that front, and there'll be more to follow once RIDOT completes their vetting of the legislation.
When do you think RIDOT will complete that vetting?
Pretty soon. We've already submitted the bills, so they're going to have to
Come testify.
And they didn't have any real concerns. They just wanted to make sure that for the state roads, they had some degree of say in how a particular community might implement the use of these speed cameras. Some of the other stuff, the special ed stuff, a lot of it is a mess. High cost special ed has been grossly for years and years, and everybody knows it. And it's one of those things where nobody knows where the money's going to come from, so the problem just sits there, and localities have to deal with it. We're working on this. I know the Superintendent Association and the Association of School Committees are both circumstances on it. They're doing some of the data. Some potential.
Senator Semney, you're breaking up there. You know that what?
Okay, so let me start again. Both the Superintendent's Association and the Association of School Committees are looking at this at these issues. Certainly the transportation, certainly the DCYF practices on what they're charging the LEA for students. They're charging too much money. No one's quite sure what's being done with that extra money. It's going to like don't have a plan for it. So that's being looked at. I don't think. I mean, there was absolutely no political will to modify or change the funding formula now that it's coming to its maturity. The whole idea here for 10 years was to get us to a place where there was a stable expectation on how much money you were going to get. Everything I heard from everybody that came before that commission last year was very supportive of making sure we didn't screw that up, seeing how hard everyone has worked. So in terms of future reductions in state aid education, if we see that, it's because something, budgetarily really serious going on. Everyone will feel the pain. It's like they're going to and reduce funds further, district by district. So I don't see that as a concern. The special ed, I think, will continue to, because I haven't heard from anywhere any bright ideas on where the money that really takes is going to come. We'll keep working on it. What else?
Sorry, if I could interject, if the audio is still pretty spotty, if there's any way to mute the town hall, because the echo from the audio system there is causing to only catch like every third word.
That's better.
Okay. Well, Juan Carlos, every third word I just said was the only important ones anyway.
Every word you say is special to me, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of support in the Senate for this pause on the charter school stuff. In fact, when we were doing advice and consent on the two new school commissioners for the K-12 Education Board of Commissioners, we really pushed them that the charter school circumstance is really getting out of line. In fact, there really isn't a plan. There isn't anybody in the state that can tell you, okay, well, what is the right number? When you get to X number of charter schools, how do you know that's the right number? How do you know if you've passed it? How do you know what damage you're doing to the public, the real public school system? So it's a real issue. Lieutenant Governor McKee is a real supporter of these charter schools. So it's going to be some interesting politics coming up. I fully expect that on the Senate side, that bill that's going to be heard this week in the Education Committee, we will pass that out of committee and it will go to the floor, and I expect it will pass so that we see this 2 or 3 year pause in any more charter schools getting authorized. What happens after that remains to be seen. So, I mean, there's an issue there. I think did I hit everything? Field trips, yeah, we'll pick that up on the Senate side. I don't know what happened. I think that was Aaron Lynch Prada's bill, and so someone will pick that up, and I'll check on that to make sure that that's going up the flagpole on the Senate side as well as the House. Anything else, Emily?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Senator Stephanie, can I ask you, I went to the hearings with Rep. Cortfriend where you were sitting on the Senate committee that was talking about redoing the funding formula. And I'm just wondering, what is the process going to be for determining what the new funding formula will look like? And what's our opportunity to have any input into that process?
I think the input's going to be in the categoricals, okay? Nobody is going to fool with the fundamental funding formula itself. As soon as you start touching that, the money gets really big, really fast, and nobody knows how to deal with that. That the base amount that gets allocated to a student, to each student, they might take a look at that. But when you do the math on that, even a little increase in that gets to be a very large budget issue. I haven't heard anyone talking about changing the fundamental portion of that school funding formula. There'll continue to be a lot of talk on the categoricals because by and large, the categoricals are screwed up and they do need a lot of work. You know, how far we get with that, I can't tell you, because those two, as soon as you start fooling around with them, the numbers get big. You know, and I don't know.
That's what I'm asking, though. What I'm asking is, are there going to be hearings about the proposed new funding formula, or is it just going to magically appear somewhere and it's already set in stone?
What I'm telling you is it's not going to magically appear, and I don't think there's going to be any hearings on it. People aren't looking at it. They think the funding formula as it exists is okay.
Okay.
There might be hearings on the categoricals. High cost special ed is a big deal. Transportation for out of district kids is a big deal. Everybody in the state is scratching their head on what DCYF is doing with the extra money they charge you for a kid, you know, for the special ed cost, and he's not getting special ed services, but they're still charging the money, you know. Those kinds of things I think will be heard, and we'll look at what's wrong there. But as far as the fundamental school funding formula, that's not going to change. Not this year anyway, I don't think.
Thank you.
I think to follow up on that question, I think maybe what you're asking too is, what I've heard is that there will be a joint Senate House commission, much like the Senate one that we went to, but it will be with both both chambers together, because that, I always wondered why we didn't do that at the beginning. But I don't think our former speaker was open to that. So I'm thinking this coming summer, it would be a joint commission to look at it. And you may be right, Senator Seveny, about changing it. But there's, yeah, we need to find about $47 million, I think, to get between the, or 37 million between the special ed and the transportation. It's a lot of money without even touching the formula. Just to get the
Can I make a
categorical
comment?
started.
Okay, hold on, I'm just gonna go to, Barbara has a comment. Fred?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, my comment in the special aid, the state aid formula is that my understanding is there's a significant portion of it based on property valuations. And Christy Urio and perhaps Tom Kenworthy can both address this better than I, but because Portsmouth property valuations have increased substantially for some inexplicable reason relative to other districts, we're looking at another cut in state aid, despite the fact that our state aid has reached the end of that 10-year time frame. So I don't know if you have any perspective on that.
Well, the funding formula is what it is, and that E-wave calculation that factors in property values in comparison statewide. You know, if our property values are going up, that can work against us. That doesn't mean the formula is changing. I mean, the formula will be the formula if some of the data that's feeding that formula changes, because our property values are going up substantially in comparison with other communities. You know, we could face reductions in school aid. I don't know, but that's not changing the formula. That's just, you know, the factors that go into the formula start working against us if this is the case. I've heard this as well, but I haven't seen anybody with any kind of data on it that shows that.
Thanks.
I think Superintendent, can you hear me on this? Can you hear me?
I think we're muted.
No.
No, we're on.
No, we're good.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
I think Superintendent Kenworthy is going to address this a little bit in the budget presentation.
Yeah, it is in my presentation, so we're going to be talking about it again then if we want to wait so we can move on to some other things.
So that's later. I'll listen in.
It'll be right after this, Terry.
We can wait. Then. Okay.
All right. I see no further questions.
Any further comments from any of the other representatives?
I don't really have it. I think Representative Cortfriend and Senator Seveny covered those issues pretty well. I don't really have anything to add to that, but I want to thank the school committee for putting that together. I think it provides a good guide for us moving forward. So thank you for that input, and I appreciate that, having that as a basis for decision making going forward.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. Thank you for doing that. And Senator Seveny and Representative Cortfriend, thank you for that synopsis of everything and what's going on in the House.
And we'd like to thank all the representatives and our senator for your support on these issues. When you have bills that have been introduced, if you could get us copies, we can pass resolutions in support of them.
Oh, thank you for that. I will.
Great.
Especially
We will.
equity and a lot of the environmental ones. I'd like to send your way.
Yeah, I think it's about time you guys get some positive feedback for a change.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So,
Don't
someone, no. All right, well, I think that concludes our discussion with our legislators. do want to thank you all again for taking the time to be here tonight and to share with us your thoughts on our legislative priorities, and any help that you can provide us would be greatly appreciated. So again, you're welcome to listen in for the remainder of the evening. We'll understand if you need to sign off, but again, thank you on behalf of the council, on behalf of the school committee.
Mr. President,
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
That issue about Portsmouth losing state aid next year to the tune of about 150,000 will be discussed coming up right next with Superintendent Ken Worthy's presentation.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Keller.
Representative Edwards asked me to pass along his apologies. He did intend to get here tonight, but was going to be late due to a prior commitment, and it ran over. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Thank you. Okay. All right, so again, at this point, we will be moving on to our joint council school committee budget presentation.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Chair, Town Council, School Committee, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we're just going to provide you a very broad brush overview of what is going to drive the driving factors behind our next budget. Next slide, please. And for the next budget, and that title, I apologize, I should say FY22 budget, I believe. These are really the drivers behind the budget. The revenue that we anticipate we will receive, which has obviously been impacted by COVID. The expenditures based on contracts, discretionary spending, and non-discretionary spending, capital improvement program, and technology. So if we can go to the next slide, please. With respect to revenue, on the town side, the number of taxable vehicles could drop up to 17%. The state has pledged to make municipalities whole, and this could represent up to a 35% decrease in the motor vehicle portion of the tax levy. With respect to housing and building construction, we're looking at approximately a 10% increase in revenue growth in the building inspection office. We are seeing a leveling off of housing construction, but skyrocketing increase in people doing renovations and refurbishments to their homes. We do have pending court litigation of an assessment appeal, an assessment appeals, which may potentially impact revenue projections. Additionally, we expect a continued negative effect on overall revenues. Glen Manor House recreation programs and beach revenues are all down due to the pandemic. So therefore, all departments have been directed to present budgets that reflect anticipated drops in revenue and to reduce to the greatest extent possible any discretionary spending in their budget proposals. Tom, I'll turn it over to you for the school side.
Thank you, Rich. We can go back to that slide though, please. So again, this is the long-awaited additional information on the discussion we were having on the state funding formula. So as far as revenue on the school side, we rely mainly on the town appropriation, as I'm sure everyone is aware. And the next biggest revenue source for us would be in the area of state aid. And so going into any budget season, looking at that state aid number, again, is kind of one of the first steps as we're building our budget and trying to keep in mind what we may need from the town. So as we've discussed, we came up last year on the end of a 10-year implementation of the, what had been a new state funding formula. And you've heard quite a bit over the years that Portsmouth was, when that funding formula was implemented 10 plus years ago, there were some districts that were big winners. We definitely were not in Portsmouth. And what we were seeing was a steady decrease in our state aid to the tune of about $200,000 each year. So knowing that that formula was, that 10-year phase-in was completed, we were anticipating some better news when we saw what right now is just a preliminary projection. So this number does change somewhat, but usually not drastically. So in the projections for state aid for next year, we were surprised to see that we're actually slated in Portsmouth to lose again about $160,000 in state aid. So we really, this caused us to really start looking into that. And, it's been discussed a little bit already. What we found was the biggest driver of that is this property value to student, number of students funding ratio. And Senator 70, there's another acronym called the E-Wave. There's a lot of different factors here. Property values in the town definitely factor in here. Number of students in the district factor in here. We've really started to look into this now as much as we can. We started to look at like communities that we would expect, the Barringtons, the East Greenwiches that we would, typically, compare ourselves to for different things on the education side. And what we're seeing in those communities is they're actually going to start to gain now that the funding formula has leveled out. And again, they, their property value to student ratio is working in their favor. So this is definitely something we've heard tonight from our legislators, that if the funding formula is not going to change, it's definitely something that we need to make sure that we have all of the information that we can gather around it and look at anything that we can do to be proactive on the school and town side. Some good news. We will start to see our enrollment start to tick up a little bit on the school side, but as it's kind of decreased slightly from year to year for the last 10 years or so. Again, it's just going to be a slight increase from year to year. So that certainly isn't going to solve the problem for us overnight, but I think as much as we can do in working together to be able to look at all of the factors here and really look at how it's affecting us in the budget will obviously be to everybody's benefit. And then just to finish up this slide, as far as revenue, we don't have a lot on the school side, but our next big area would be tuitions. So I think everyone is aware, we have the agreement with Little Compton, where we take their high school students into Portsmouth High School. So that tuition number, sits in our budget as a revenue, but Little Compton, like many districts in Rhode Island, is also seeing a decrease in student enrollment. So one of the things that we see with that overall number related to Little Compton tuitions is it does, and it will continue to go down from year to year. And then a few years ago, we started our CTE, our career and tech programs, which are thriving. We have 4 programs at Portsmouth High School, mainly to benefit the students of Portsmouth. But one of the additional benefits to the district is that we can take in students from other districts. And so slowly we had started to see an increase in the number of students we were bringing in to those programs. That then is additional tuition money that we can collect. And then this year, for the first time, because of COVID, we actually saw a slight, I'm not even sure if it was an overall decrease in the number of students, but definitely we set a projection every year of where we would like to see those programs grow. And we just did not meet it this year due to COVID. So that's a big unknown right now. Hopefully that number starts to turn around and go back up for us as well. Rich?
Thank you, Tom. So if we continue the discussion on expenditures on the town side, there are a number of other factors that will impact the budget. With respect to salaries, Almost all salaries on the town side are contractually mandated through collective bargaining agreements. And those salaries are expected to grow between 2 and 2.5% when you factor in longevity, step movement, and staffing changes. With respect to health, there is some good news there. We do project a flat to a very small increase in premiums due to favorable utilization trends. Our OPEB or other post-employment benefits. This is a pay-as-you-go expense, and that is projected to slightly increase as the number of future retirees increase. And our ARC payment, which is the actuarially defined contribution to the pension system. It's a legacy pension system, the defined benefit program. That is expected to increase about 9.7%. Tom?
Sure. So similar on the school side, the first three would make up the bulk of our expenditures or related to personnel. And so, we do see a lot of the same trends when it comes to things like healthcare and retirement. For us, one of the big unknowns right now, as well related to all of this in personnel, is our Portsmouth teachers contract. That would be our largest collective bargaining group, is expiring at the end of the school year. So we are just entering the negotiation phase with that group. And then two other big drivers for us in the area of expenditures. We have a lot of contracts expiring at the end of this year. One of them, additionally, is transportation. So that's a big one with our busing costs. We're currently going out to bid for that, and hopefully looking to implement some positive changes as well with some other things that we're looking to do. But it is a big unknown right now. Excuse me. And then additionally, our facilities contract, which is a shared service with the town, but we do get the bulk of those services on the school side, but that contract is also expiring, and we're going out to bid currently. Rich?
Wait to get unmuted. Thank you, Tom. Another big driver in expenditure side in our budget is debt service. Our bond debt service for the town and school is projected to decrease by the better part of 19% next year. And our capital lease service for the town, this covers vehicles, computers, so on and so forth. That is expected to remain relatively stable at about $446,000. The next slide is a chart depicting the town's bond debt service. Our current bond debt service will drop by approximately $500,000 over the next year, but it'll drop by about $1 million by 2025. Next slide, please. Okay, and then the kind of cats and dogs, the other things that we have to take into consideration on the expenditure side. We do have a number of labor contracts that are expiring over the next course of the next year. We did sign the town police and DPW contracts over the last couple of months, and those financial impacts will be incorporated into the next budget. The PMEA, or the clerks union, and the fire contracts will expire on June 30th, 2022. So we will start negotiations during this next budget year. And as Tom, the Superintendent Kenworthy said, the teacher contract will expire in 2021. With respect to expenditures and some of the strategies that we incorporate to try to deal with increasing costs, we will continue to, our expectation is that we will continue to share the outsourcing of our facilities management. That contract is due, and we will be putting that bid out tomorrow. We will be looking to share efficiencies and continue to collaborate in technology. However, our technology needs are rapidly increasing. So I will be proposing to hire an IT professional in the next budget. But as I said, continue to work with the school technology department to capitalize on shared services and best practices. And then we will continue the school resource officer program. Next slide, please. Okay, with respect to capital, you can see, I won't read through all of them. If you can just scroll down a little farther. I don't know if that whole slide shows up. But as discussed last year, here you see a list. This is the bulk of projected capital improvements that will continue or we will seek to start in the coming year. And then you're well aware that a couple years ago, we did a facility condition assessment of all our town facilities. That is an addendum to the capital improvement program, and as things become due on that report and we have the ability to fund them, we move them from the facility condition assessment findings up to the town approved capital improvement plan, and we'll continue to do that this year. Next slide, please. Superintendent?
Sure. So on the school side, first items there on the left are just again to give an idea of obviously these are all town facilities, but there are 5 buildings that are in our care and custody to maintain on the school side. So our 4 schools in our administration building, and those, whenever we talk about our capital plans, it's around the upkeep or renovations related to those buildings. So with that, we do have a new 5-year capital, or I'm sure you may remember from last year that the term stage 2 will be the initial phase in that process. So we did have to withdraw the stage 2 that we submitted last year due to some unforeseen things that came up with some of the Navy land on the Melville property that was not able to be worked out. And then once everything hit with COVID, again, on the school and town side, we just decided it was best to withdraw that stage 2 application we submitted last year. So we've worked with our school department building committee, which does include town and school representatives. And we do have a revised stage 2 application that is smaller scale, but designed to address mainly the health and safety items, most of which were part of that original plan from last year. So the timeline has changed a little bit with that. It used to be a February 1st approval with RIDE that we were aiming for, but now it'll be a July 1st. So we thought it would best to kind of let the budget process kick off a little bit. Last year, we were trying to do these things simultaneously. And it was a lot to manage in the middle of all of the budget discussions, but you will be hearing more about this. We will be bringing that revised stage 2 proposal forward. And then the timeline there that we would be trying to stay on is again a July 1st submission date, which would get us at least a September approval from the state. And that next bullet item should say bond referendum if needed. But again, that would be kind of the timeline if that's the route that we decide to take for these projects. That would assure that we would stay on that timeline. Again, this revised stage 2 would be addressing mainly health and safety items. Some of the highlights of that would be new HVAC systems at both of our elementary schools, which during COVID especially, we have found are very important issues that really have come to the forefront even since we were doing this work last year. And then renovated bathrooms at all of our schools would definitely be part of the project, in addition to some other things. So then the last thing there related to capital for us would be a capital request for next year. Right now, again, we will certainly have something that we would be submitting with our operating budget in March. But right now, those projects are still undetermined. We do need to, on the school side, make sure that we are hitting the target of at least 3% of our total school budget to be spent on the facilities maintenance, for those 5 buildings that I referenced to start. Rich?
Mr. President, can I just ask a quick question of the superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Tom, do you have a ballpark of those health and safety items in terms of if we do go to a bond? Obviously, health and safety is a lot different than
Sure.
building and all the other fun stuff that
Yeah,
was in.
so if you remember, last year, the bigger project was around a $60 million price tag. So right now, again, unless there are any changes, this will be coming forward for a final vote of the school committee and town council, much like we did last year, but it would be in the $20 million range we're anticipating.
And do you might not be able to answer this, and maybe one of the state representatives could find out eventually, but how much of the original bond from 3 or 4 years ago has been spent? Did all that go to Providence and Central Falls and Woonsocket? Is that all gone?
My understanding is there's still, money out there. I don't know if Senator Seveny or one of the other representatives has more information on that, but
We can find out from the treasurer's office. He's got a pretty close watch on what remains of that. You're talking about that initial 250.
Yeah, 500 million or 250, what it was?
250, yeah. And there is more coming. We think. I mean, a lot of this stuff is up in the air, obviously, but there's supposed to be next year another 250 coming. But we'll find out how much is still remaining in the original 250.
Yes.
Do we know if the plans are still that 55% range, or we're talking more 35 less 55?
We can get an update.
Yeah, we'll get it up
from the treasurer.
There were things you had to do to move the number from 35 up to closer to 50. And I forget what those were. But there were incentives, I guess you'd call them. But we can talk to the treasurer's office and find out, where Portsmouth might fit.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Tom. Okay,
yep, I think we're on the last slide, Rich.
Yeah, if we go to the last slide, if you were to refer to the first slide, the last driver that we intended to discuss tonight is technology. On the town side, we will be continuing the PC replacement program and upgrades to town technology. We intend to initiate a website refurbishment and upgrade. We don't know what the future holds, but I think we can all agree that we've kind of crossed a Rubicon, and that regardless of when or how we will go back to normal with respect to town council meetings, live streaming will now have to be incorporated into our plan. So we will be working on live streaming enhancements. Up until this year, the fire dispatch system has been tied to the police dispatch system. Statewide, the police are moving to an upgrade to their dispatching system, which will obviate that relationship that we've had in a technical sense between fire and DPW, or fire and police. And we will need to upgrade the fire software and dispatch equipment. Currently, there is no connection, cable or otherwise, to the internet at DPW. It's via an antenna that we pipe from the fire station. That is no longer adequate. We will be looking to put in a fiber installation that will connect, hard connect DPW to the fire. And then one of our two bulk shredder has been inoperative for over a year, and we intend to replace that.
Sure. On the school side, again, when we talk about our technology needs and what we fund either in our operating budget or through our tech capital, those are the four main drivers. Really for us, I think that the biggest change, so to speak, from where we may have been in years past is that last item. If you may recall, we, 4 or 5 years ago, like most districts had started on a 1-to-1 device rollout, but we were moving, what had been you know, as part of a plan, kind of slowly, 1 to 2 grades at a time, making sure we had everything to support the devices and the needs there. But last year, when we had to move to full distance learning, that really has changed things overnight for us. So we are now fully 1-to-1 K through 12, and you know, just have to make sure that every student has a 1-to-1 device in their hands that we can employ at any point in time that we may need to. And I don't see that, you know, that need is obviously going to be there, you know, for us to have to fall back on for the foreseeable future. So with that, you know, comes a lot of things on the back end that we need to make sure are in place to support that. And that is it for me.
Mr. President, Madam Chair, that concludes our overview of the budget drivers for the next fiscal year.
Thank you both. Are there any questions from counselors at this point? That was, you know, obviously high level, but informative as we, you know, enter into this budget process. So thank you both for putting that together.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton has it.
Hamilton?
I just, it was less of a question, more of a comment. Obviously, with the state of the economy and where we are with COVID, it behooves all of us to make this as lean, mean, and trim as possible as we go forward with building this budget.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. I think that concludes. So thank you all. And I think at this point, school committee will be will be signing off and tending to other needs. So thank you all. Again, thank you to our representatives, legislators, legislative representatives for being here, Senator Seveny, Representative Donovan, Cortravin, and McCall. Thank you all. And again, any help will be much appreciated, and we look forward to working with each of you over the course of the year to also support your agendas and provide you the resolutions when necessary. So thank you all.
Thanks for putting this on.
And thank you to the town and town council for organizing this and getting it all set up for the school committee. So I have a feeling most of the school committee members will be signing off here.
Oh, come on. All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. I'll give everybody a second here. Oh, take care. Yes, thank you. I gotta reset my screen. I don't have as many boxes. Okay. We are moving on. Our next item is our consent agenda. We have bills and peddler license.
Move to approve as presented.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Ms. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Uh-oh.
Stepped away. Quick second.
No, I couldn't figure out how to unmute my computer again.
Someone from school IT to help you.
I need a kid to help me, right?
I think that was an aye. Was that an aye, Mr. Buttermeyer?
Yes, it was an aye.
It was an aye,
All right, got it.
filtered with sarcasm.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Aguilar?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners.
Move to approve the annual victuals license for St. Karas Incorporated, doing business as Steve's Pizza at 24 East Main Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Motion to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
You're muted, Daniela.
I know, it was stuck. Aye, sorry.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all. Next, we'll be moving on to minutes, but before anybody makes a motion, I need to refer to the town clerk.
We just needed to add that on the new business too, with the letter for Growth Smart, that it was forwarded to the planning board for review.
We just have to
Modify that.
modify the minutes to reflect that.
Motion to approve the minutes as modified.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
And Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And I think we also need to approve the minute, our executive minutes from the same evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. On to tax vouchers. It's request approval of tax voucher 2021 125-01 to 2021 0125-09.
Mr. President, I need to recuse myself from this. I will send a letter to the clerk.
Move to approve is presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
And Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Mr. Hamilton. Okay. Our town administrators report, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, with respect to COVID-19, I do hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe. We are seeing an increase in local COVID-19 rates, so I want to reiterate the call to please keep social groups as small as possible and stay in your efforts to reduce the transmission of this virus. I can tell you from personal experience, it is no fun. With respect to COVID-19 guidelines, the state has extended current guidelines through mid-February. So as a reminder, everybody should be wearing a mask when outside of your home, even when in the outdoors. You should consider keeping a mask on when you're walking down the sidewalk or jogging or biking. You should keep your social interactions limited to members of your own household, and you should self-isolate whenever possible. And if you can, work from home, and if you can, shop locally online. The state has opened up a new testing site on Aquidneck Island at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Middletown. Everyone is encouraged to log on to the Department of Health test site portal, portalri.com, and schedule a test. Appointments are free and results are returned usually within 24 to 48 hours. As you heard discussed during the legislature discussion, due to vaccine availability, the Rhode Island Department of Health has revised their initial plan. Rhode Island is currently only receiving about 14,000 doses per week, so the Department of Health has adopted a step-by-step approach in deciding who gets immunized. Information regarding planning for vaccinations in Rhode Island can be found via the Rhode Island Department of Health website or by clicking the links in our COVID update page on the town website. Last meeting, I let you know that there was work ongoing with respect to the Sandpoint dock. That refurbishment of the Sandpoint dock at Prudence Island, which was authorized by the council in the current capital improvement plan, has been completed. The dock has been completely renovated. The bulkhead has been repaired. The roadway section leading to the dock has been repaved, and a gangway installed which can be raised and lowered. With respect to the senior center, there has been, I'd like to note, an increase in public discussion and social media chatter regarding the Portsmouth Senior Center. I have been very careful to keep the council aware of work that I'm doing to ensure that the center as an organization remains viable after the building they are currently housed in is no longer authorized for that use next summer. Nothing about what steps have been taken should be a surprise. The simple fact of the matter is the Portsmouth Senior Center is a private nonprofit organization housed in a town-provided building, which is subsidized through annual civic support payments authorized by the town council. Regardless, I believe as a town, we should do what needs to be done to support Portsmouth Senior Center, the Senior Center, and endeavor to take all the steps necessary to ensure that the members of the organization, our residents, have a safe and adequate center to congregate in. As previously discussed, the approach to this issue consists of two important steps. One, securing a permanent replacement for the Ann Hutchison building where the senior center is currently housed. And two, securing an intermediate home while plans are made and executed to secure a permanent home. With regard to securing a permanent home, we have been discussing a partnership with Church Community Housing. In principle, Church Community Housing will build a new center for the town in exchange for a long-term lease of the property. This will ultimately be subject to town council and voter approval, but the plan as envisioned would be of no cost to the town. I will keep the council informed as this plan matures. In the meantime, I will be reaching out to important stakeholders with ties and interests in the senior center in the coming weeks to form a working group to help ensure that we address all the concerns associated with the continued viability of the Portsmouth Senior Center. In the interim, there is no suitable location in Portsmouth which can house the Portsmouth Senior Center. We don't have empty buildings in our inventory that are suitable. And particularly under the current agreement which they have with the town, which is $1 a year. As I briefed the council previously, I'm discussing a proposed arrangement with the Middletown Town Administrator. He has received recent approval to work with me to develop a plan to incorporate our seniors into the Middletown Senior Center until we build a new senior center in Portsmouth. I will present that proposal as soon as it is ready for your review. The bottom line is this. I understand there is uncertainty regarding the future of the senior center, and that is worrisome for our seniors who reside in Portsmouth. I believe it is important to address these concerns and do what can be done to support our residents, which will at the same time help the senior center organization. So unless otherwise directed, I will continue these efforts. With respect to the COVID response fund, which we heard a little discussion about earlier, we have been notified by the municipal COVID-19 response fund program that the Rhode Island Department of Revenue has made funds available to Rhode Island cities and towns. Portsmouth has been targeted for reimbursement of a little over $800,000. An advance installment of $174,000 has been released, and the remainder of funds are expected to be released late this month. These funds are meant to cover expenses associated with public safety payroll expenses, personal protection equipment and social distancing measures and expenses, and telework expenses. January 29th is the target date for the Division of Municipal Finance to publish final amounts that municipalities will be entitled to. As we discussed during the budget brief, the contract with Aramark, our facilities coordinator, is coming to a close this fiscal year. The partnership that we have with the school is a relationship where we both fund that facilities contract for the benefit of the town and the school at the same time, where they get the bulk and we pay a share. We have prepared the request for proposals to solicit bids from interested vendors. And as I stated earlier, we will release that RFP tomorrow. And then lastly, with respect to the East Main Road assessment, the road safety assessment team met to discuss the East Main Road assessment earlier this month. We asked for clarification from DOT and their contractor on some of the recommended measures and suggestions for improvements. And we expect to have those in time to brief the council at your next meeting. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Moving on to our resignations and appointments. First item, we have a resignation from the zoning board of review for Ms. Kathleen Balkus.
Move to accept with regret.
Second.
All those in favor?
Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0, 7-1. We added a counselor, nobody knew. Next, we have the resignation for the Prudence Island Planning Commission. Ms. Kathy Holman.
Move to accept with
Accept with
regret.
regret. Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Judy Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have appointments. Prudence Island Planning Commission, there's 2 vacancies. We have 2 applicants. And just for the clarification that Ms. Holman's resignation is effective February 12th, so next month. So
Correct. So one right now.
Yep.
One
yeah,
will go effective then.
so if approved, we'll just go in order. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve Linda O'Brien and Lori Greeny to the Prudence Island Planning Commission.
And make Ms. O'Brien effective immediately and Ms. Greeny effective 2/12.
2/12/21.
Correct.
Thank you.
All those in
Second.
favor? Nope. Sorry. All those in favor?
Ms. Judy Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Buttermeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have the reappointment of Abby Brown to the Harbor Commission.
Move to approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Ms. Judy Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And then it's reappointment to the planning board for Mr. Guy Bissonette and
Move to
To
approve.
approve,
Guy.
Mr. Second.
Okay.
I also add Mr. Lopes because it's just the same board, so.
Yes. Approve it.
all those in favor?
Ms. Judy Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott,
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Dr. Ryan,
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And it's a reappointment for the tree warden, Mr. John Fitzgerald.
Approve.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Ms. Judy Souza,
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Bummeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
And Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And finally, it's a reappointment to the West Side Development Commission for John Pevich.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7. I have to apologize to everyone. I don't have my iPad tonight, so I have to keep going to my phone. So I'm trying to read off my phone because I can't look at two things at once. Like my computer's got everybody on it. My phone has the agenda, so I apologize. I'm not texting, I'm trying to read. Next, we have old business. It's the Melville Park Committee grant application amended request. Sorry. Or
I can,
Mr. Okay.
Mr. President, you approved the initial grant application request last month. Since then, they've revised and refined their grant application, which results in an increase in the match required from about initially $5,000 to about $7,924. The addition in the match will not require any more cash. The cash match is still going to be provided for from their already approved current year budget. The additional match requirement can be made via in-kind service through the service of the committee members themselves and DPW. The committee has already worked this out with the DPW director, so I recommend that you approve this revised request.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, on to new business. New business number 1. It's a request to limit beach stickers per household. Oh.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Good evening, Wendy.
Good evening. Yes, your honorable council, I'm requesting approval to limit the number of beach stickers allowed per family or address to 2 stickers. Historically, there has not been a limit to the number of stickers issued. The issue of limitation became apparent last season due to the town hall being closed to the public. The clerk's office mailed the beach stickers to residents, and that provided an extra expense to the town as multiple mailings were made to the same address. Limiting beach stickers in each household will also allow for a greater number of Portsmouth residents to enter the beach. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Polk. Do you have any questions, comments from our counselors?
Have we decided the plan for this year? Are we going to keep it to residents only again due to COVID?
I can address that. We're just beginning to discuss that now. We're trying to wait and see what other towns are doing. Middletown just approved their procedures for next year. Essentially, it's a hybrid, but generally it's residents only. Right now, the discussion among staff is that we would keep that proposal the same for you, i.e. we would just continue what we did last year, which is why in the budget discussion, I anticipated, the continued loss of revenue from the beach. I think based on the inoculation to the vaccination program. Right now, while we all do anticipate a ramp up in the distribution of vaccines, 14,000 vaccines to Rhode Island would equate to about 100 weeks of vaccinations, which is the better part of 2 years. So I think we're in this for the long haul, even if we do ramp up. So while we don't have a proposal right now, that's a long answer to your question. We think that we're going to propose to you maintaining what we did last year. This is really kind of a separate issue. What Wendy's trying to address here is the fact that we, up until this summer, we never really kept track of how many stickers were being issued to a household. It turns out that there's a lot. Where are these stickers going? And I don't want to accuse sticker sharing or what have you, but we think we've discovered something here, and we just think it's a good idea. If 2 doesn't work, we can address that later, but we think this is probably fair.
Move to approve the request to limit the stickers to 2 per household.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. And on to new business number 2. It's a request approval to amend resolution 2020-02-10A, exemption from taxation of real estate of certain income eligible senior citizens. Nelson?
To approve. This is a yearly adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Who was the second?
I was Linda.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott?
Aye.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton? Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Aguirre, one thing, just to let you know, under the new, those last 2 items under new business, they're actually 3 and 4. But because of the way the system works in Civic Plus, we can't jump from new business 1 and 2
Oh, okay.
to 3 and 4. So
Gotcha.
just-
All right.
We'll have some issue.
Well, housekeeping. Okay, future meetings. Our next regular scheduled council meeting will be February 8th, February 22nd, March 8th, and March 22nd, all at 7 p.m. at the town council or via the Zoom platform.
Move to adjourn.
Second, Andrew Kelly.
All those in favor?
Mr. Jukusa?
Aye.
Ms. Abbott? Ms. Abbott?
Aye. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Mr. Buttermeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Dr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Aguirre?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Rich.
Where?
That's okay. Is it? So there was no correspondence.